The bandits struck around 4 o'clock in a daring attempt through the club's front doors.
They jimmied our security door, which triggered the alarm immediately. They raced in, grabbed hold of it with a rope, apparently the FPOS machine, and started to drag it out.
They were attempting to steal a cash machine holding tens of thousands of dollars, but were forced to abandon their haul on the driveway.
It's taken them a more amount of time to get the machine out of the club than they've anticipated, and they've just left fearing police were attending.
The thieves escaped empty-handed in 2 stolen cars. Police say this Holden ute was dumped in a nearby street after the driver lost control. The vehicle mounted a gutter, blowing a front tyre. This blue Kingswood was also found nearby. Police today fingerprinted another vehicle used in connection with Monday's bungled ram raid on the Pelican RSL Club, where thieves were planning to steal a cash machine. Police later discovered a number of cash registers dumped near the Swansea Channel. As yet, police say they have no new leads in their inquiries, but have not ruled out a connection between the recent spate of incidents.
There may be a connection, but we're yet to conduct further inquiries that may lead to that.
Anyone with information is asked to contact Belmont Police. Melinda Smith, NBN News.
"19-year-old Bo Emerton defeated 34 of the world's best junior surfers to win the hot-buttered title at Narrabeen. Back home at Foster, he's still savouring the taste of success. He defeated last year's junior world title holder Kalani Robbs from Hawaii in what is regarded as the toughest junior competition in the world. It was something of a comeback for Bo, who hadn't won an event in several months.
It's good I hadn't had a result for a while, and it's something I really wanted to win. I knew it'd be really hard, but I guess deep inside I knew if I had the right waves and the conditions suited me, I thought I could do it.
In 1993, Bo won the World Junior title in Bali. He's also held national and state titles. This year will be his last as a junior surfer. Concentrating more on the open competitions, Bo is hoping to travel to Peru in February as part of the World Pro Tour. Tracy Walsh, NBN News.
Known as EasyPOS, it's a cross between a computer and a cash register.
What we have developed here is the programs to take a standard off-the-shelf computer and make it into a cash register.
Based at Valentine, Les Mustaff is the head of Ausquip, a business that's starting to make its mark on the retail and hospitality industries. By designing customised computer software and hardware, it's turned cash registers into a modern and efficient tool for both user and manager.
Each terminal is totally freestanding. It's not reliant on a central processor to drive it, but it still has the capability and the online inquiries that are necessary for the management to gain total control of the business.
After 8 years, Ausquip is distributing its product nationwide. The company has been contracted to supply Sydney's Luna Park with a dozen of its computerised cash registers. With units ranging between $900,000 and $100,000, Ausquip is also looking to export its technology.
I believe we're at the leading edge with point of sale. We have a product that is very competitive against cash registers and against other point of sale systems that might be out in the market.
The driver was travelling along Crowders Bay Road in Belmont when she lost control of the vehicle.
The tyres just wouldn't grip, and then I came up against the poles here and I thought they would stop me. I didn't realise there was a creek on the other side and I just went straight through it.
The driver walked away unscathed, despite crashing her vehicle through guideposts and falling about 10 metres into a creek.
I just thought I've got to get out of here, and I couldn't open my seatbelt because I had all my weight on it.
She'd obviously come down the hill, lost it in a bit of rain here, turned upside down the creek. As I was going down the hill to assist her out, she was already climbing out. I just assisted her the way out.
Steve Corrigan says he's pulled out more than a dozen people from Mill Creek after similar crashes. Police say light rain may have contributed to the accident. Richard O'Leary, NBN News. Jason Stoltenberg matched it with the world's best on the international tennis circuit, making the finals of two major tournaments, including a win at Birmingham in the United States. The 24-year-old suffered a shoulder injury towards the end of last year, but was still Australia's top male, ranked 21st in the world. Newcastle's Lisa Ryan is already at the top of her sport, the World Wave Ski champion dominating the women's circuit like no one ever before. She became the first woman to hold both the world title and World Cup simultaneously. And another strike for the women, with Lake Macquarie's Anne-Marie Putney crowned Australia's top female 10-pin bowler. Anne-Marie won the national title. She also enjoyed a wealth of success on the international stage, including a gold and silver in the demonstration sport at the Commonwealth Games.
What do we want?
It's a part of summer we all hate, that irritating buzz and sting from the mosquito. Hexham is mozzie heaven, and Port Stephens Council is working to stop a new flow of the pests.
We've just gone through a series of very high tides, 2 metre plus, and coupled with the rain, all the breeding areas have topped up, so the numbers are starting to climb.
Ken Bunn takes regular checks of mosquito numbers, and they've increased fourfold in the last 2 weeks. The council is spraying breeding grounds with insecticide and special bacteria. Apart from the irritation of the insects, there is a slight risk of Ross River fever, a debilitating virus spread by the mosquito.
Yeah, the percentage is pretty small, but it's something the community should be aware of.
The council is offering literature to residents on how to control the pests. People should cover up when outside and use a recommended repellent. Oh, and watch out for that giant Hexham grey.
They're that big, they land at the RAF base and they fill them up with jet fuel and all.
Peter Ryan, NBN News.
The tradition of a club song started in 1993. That was followed by a release by the footballers themselves. But now the football gurus have turned to the hoodoo gurus for inspiration. The Knights hope the right time for a premiership will be this year. Some of the players will meet members of the Hoodoo Gurus after the band's concert at the Workers' Club tomorrow night.
The area between City Hall and the administration block has become a popular venue for skateboard riders. But the constant hammering of the boards is damaging seats and steps, and the riders have been criticised for creating a public nuisance. After 2 years of planning, Council has started work on a special facility at South Newcastle Beach. The first stage, costing $65,000, will feature special ramps and platforms, and it's not only skateboards that will be able to test them out.
It'll be also for inline skaters, the rollerbladers, and for advanced BMX riders as well.
When completed, the facility will be of international standard.
This is in 2 stages. We only have the money for the first stage now, but I'm hoping that with the budget that comes up in July, we'll follow on with the second stage immediately, because the cost of the whole lot is about very close to $130,000.
Given its scenic location, the venue is set to become a well-used asset.
Need somewhere to go. This is like get in trouble and stuff on the streets.
It's quite nice that we're actually being appreciated for once, not being hassled or something.
Melinda Smith, NBN News.
A home beside the beach is the dream of many. The view may be great, but the ocean can be a destructive force.
Seas and the big storms of the past few weeks have eroded the banks in front of the block, and residents have watched as the sand just literally crumbles away.
In 1974, wild storms lashed the central coast, with houses at Wombrel being washed into the surf. It was something nobody thought could ever happen. In 1995, a draft public works document is warning it could happen again. It says in a 1 in 50-year storm, some homes on the beach at Wombrel, Foresters, Avoca, Terrigal and McMasters could be at risk. Gosford Mayor Tony Sansom says the properties have been greatly devalued with the report. The Mayor has called on the state government to buy any properties put to market so residents don't lose money. In the Newcastle region, Stockton Beach is also under attack, with the sand being eaten away. It's believed property could be under threat in an extreme storm.
I don't know whether it does come away from the houses. I don't think we'd get to there, but there would be a lot of valuable property. Caravan Park could be affected, but it's very, very frightening at the moment.
Peter Ryan, NBN News.
Professional street performers are training these amateurs to help them get into the swing of things.
We've got fire stick spinning happening. We've got unicycling. We're working on juggling right now. We'll also be working on stilt work. We have some acrobatics and balancing. And then there'll be performance skills, learning the right way to present your material in the open air in front of a big crowd.
The hopeful performers come from a range of backgrounds, from theatre groups to school drama classes, and people just interested in learning something different. But they all have one thing in common: they want to entertain, but it's a long road to stardom. After 5 weeks of training, they should know all the tricks and skills needed to ply this difficult trade. And for anybody who fancies their chances at playing the clown or performing in front of a crowd, there are still spots available. Richard O'Leary, NBN News.
The alert follows last week's discovery of the parasite Cryptosporidium in Sydney's Sutherland area. The organism can cause stomach cramps, fever and severe diarrhoea and comes from a number of sources including human faeces. After more than 60 cases were reported, a link was made with an indoor swimming pool, prompting a health warning.
Particularly people suffering a diarrhoea that's not under control, they shouldn't be going to public swimming pools and certainly not even domestic pools, because there is a risk that they might transmit that illness to other people.
There were 4 reported cases of Cryptosporidium in Newcastle before Christmas. It's resistant to chlorine and can result in death for some people.
The concern is not for generally healthy people. Our concern with this particular disease is for people that have a depressed immune system.
Following the scare in Sydney, Newcastle Council carried out tests on its public pools. They were given the all clear. While the parasite can strike at any time, authorities say the risk of infection is greatly reduced if pools follow strict public health guidelines.
People who manage pools have got to be responsible, and they should maintain their pool in accordance with Health Department criteria.
The Memorial Drive project has been on the drawing board for several years. The Great Lakes Council commissioned an artist to present impressions of the growth area near the bridge at Foster. General Manager John Fitzpatrick says it's time to make the plans a reality. He says the area behind Wharf Street is hardly used.
Will undoubtedly make a big difference to the character of Foster. As you come across the bridge now, you look to the left and we've got the nice marina area with its green lawns and its walkways, and you look to the right and we've got old piles sticking out of the Breckenridge Channel. Quite an untidy sort of an area, really.
The long-term plans for the area indicate cafes, restaurants and specialty shops. Mr Fitzpatrick says financial constraints mean that the work will have to be done in stages.
Short term, I believe that we can at least start to build some of those works there. Shift the retaining wall out, get some sand in behind it, get some grass down, and maybe get a walkway through there, a boardwalk.
Although it's a priority in the Council's strategic plan for the future, he is awaiting approval from the Department of Calm and other agencies like the Environmental Protection Authority before the construction begins. Mr Fitzpatrick says the Memorial Drive project will be a tourist drawcard and benefit local consumers. Tracy Walsh, NBN News. The Minister for Consumer Affairs, Wendy Machin, welcomed fellow Cabinet member Kerry Chikarovsky to the Mid-North Coast. At the opening of the Business Enterprise Centre, the Employment Minister revealed promising news for the jobless in the region.
The recent figures show that employment opportunities and growth in this area have improved, and clearly the Business Enterprise Centre has been part of that process. As it has been opened, it has created about 350 jobs in this area.
The rate of unemployment has dropped by a third in the past 12 months. The Manning Gloucester Business Enterprise Centre targets those seeking self-employment. The state government has spent nearly $6 million to operate the 48 business enterprise centres throughout New South Wales. Mrs Chikarovsky says areas in which there's been the most job growth include manufacturing, real estate and retail. She says this should provide a solid foundation for the next few years.
I understand that there is a bypass and a new industrial estate planned for this area, and clearly part of that process is to encourage manufacturing to take place in the local area.
It's called a green drought. Just enough rain to give paddocks some colour, but too little to quench their thirst. Robin Carter's property, 35 kilometres east of Scone, has received 40 millimetres of rain since Christmas. It's greened the edges of his dams, but has failed to fill them.
Well, it's a green drought now. There's no body of feed, it's just a green shoot, and the cattle are chasing it and making them weak. And you've got to give them a lot more dry feed to keep their strength up.
Quite widespread problem. This is typical of perhaps half the district.
Like many properties in the Upper Hunter, the Carter's farm has been in drought for 21 of the past 36 months, but it still doesn't qualify for federal government assistance.
We can't seem to get any help whatsoever. If they could only help us to survive our breeding herd, it'd be some help, but we get nothing.
Robin has managed to keep most of his stock throughout the worst drought since his family settled the farm nearly 150 years ago. But with hand feeding costing more than $30,000 a month, he doesn't know how much longer he can keep fighting this natural disaster. The drought is also having a devastating effect on rural towns. Murrurundi, just 20 kilometres from here, will run out of usable water within a month if good falls don't come soon. But that's a month Robin Carter doesn't have. He just hopes he can hold on until the big dry is broken. Richard O'Leary, NBN News.
"30-year-old Claudia Mansfield, who lives on a farm near Bulladila, is lucky to be alive. Last month she was seriously injured after her car rolled 3 times on a back road. Her 1-year-old son Sam was strapped in a baby seat and survived with only minor bruising. But if it wasn't for quick thinking, his German-born mum could have bled to death.
I thought my hand falls only down, and I was scared that it breaks all up, so I support with my left hand holds the right hand that I didn't break more.
Dr John Newton is a plastic surgeon at Newcastle's John Hunter Hospital. Together with an orthopaedic specialist, he has helped reconstruct Claudia's hand. Her hips were used to replace the missing hand bones, and new skin emerged through a clever flap procedure.
And what we actually did was lift it up, what's called a groin flap, and it's quite an old thing. Lifted it up from around her hip, it's based lateral to the groin, like that. We put her hand in underneath it, put the flap down on top, and she was actually sewn there like that for 3 weeks.
The hand was then separated, and Claudia is making good progress. In the world of plastic surgery, the technique is not uncommon, but doctors agree the easy part is over, and the hard work for Claudia has just begun.
A patient with a hand injury like this would probably be looking at not getting good function back inside 12 months. It'll take about 12 months for her to get good function back.
And when the whole wound is more healed up and I haven't much pain, or I can live without pain, then it would be very great to do a lot more things.
The Knights were put through a media seminar last night and then given the opportunity behind the microphone and camera. Reporter Mark Glanville and interviewee Adam Muir proving they needed little help with after-match interviews.
They're obviously led from the front by Lock Mark Glanville. He had a blind at him.
Well, he's been down on form for about the last 10 weeks, so it was about time he had a big game. Yeah, he went all right.
One player who's also going all right is Andrew Johns, who sprinted for the first time last night after an arthroscope just 2 weeks ago.
I've had some exercises from a person from up Cessnock, and it's come along leaps and bounds. I've got full flexibility back in it, there's a lot of strength in it, and well, tonight I told Mal Rowley that I'm available for the trial.
Coach Malcolm really sent Johns for another check-up today before he was ruled out on medical advice. The team is as selected for Griffith, giving teenager Brett Kim Morley an opportunity to impress, while Mark Sargent, Adam Muir and Paul Harrigan were not considered for the trial, which will give really his initial look at many of the squad.
Well, it's going to give us a chance to sort of get a bit of match practice in, and basically the players are trialling. Some of the youngsters are getting an opportunity on the park, and it's the first opportunity to the Hive, really, to sort of assess the players in the flesh.
Meantime, Newcastle will prepare for the trial at Austral Park. The Breakers allowing the Knights to use the venue for training tomorrow and Thursday. Newcastle's leading Centurions were reunited yesterday. The two have been acquainted for some time, Jim DeCourcy having coached Greg Geese as a junior and seen him play for the Australian schoolboys in England, where he attracted the attention of Dennis Compton and Alec Bedser.
They said he was the best young player they'd seen in England since Peter May, and that's a big rap.
Jim himself caught the eye of the Poms in his prime, touring with Lindsay Hassett's side to England in 1953 with the likes of Benno, Harvey, Morris and Miller.
It was the last one to go by ship both ways, which was great. And it was coronation year, and we had so much stuff given to us because of the coronation. It was amazing. I had to buy 4 more cabin trunks to come home. It was probably the greatest tour ever, actually, because of that.
Jim played his only 3 tests on that trip, his most vivid memory scoring 204, flaying the great Fred Truman to all parts of the ground.
He had none for 96 off 14 overs. He stood in the middle of the wicket and swore at me. I can't tell you what he said, he was a pretty fluent bloke.
Such fluent stroke play could readily be seen around Newcastle, Jim beginning his first grade career when he was 13, retiring at 40, 24 centuries later after winning a premiership with New Lambton.
I think Jim is obviously probably the best batsman Newcastle ever produced. To have my name up alongside him, I'm very pleased.
I've had the greatest admiration for Greg, not only as a player, but as a very likeable young gentleman. And I'm proud that he's been the bloke that's do it. And there's a few more left in him yet, so if it beats him when he's finished, it's going to have a long way to go.
Paul Gregg, NBN News.
Mr Phillips was in full campaign mode today at Maitland Hospital, joining local MP Peter Blackmore in an inspection of work on the $31 million redevelopment. But the Minister focused on Newcastle's Mater Hospital, announcing $2 million in funding for a linear accelerator for the treatment of cancer patients. No precise date has been set for the installation beyond sometime next year, but Mr Phillips says it will go ahead.
I've never made a promise I can't keep. That one's set in stone. It'll be allocated in the budget. It's supported by the Working Party on Radiotherapy, therefore the profession. The need is quite obvious. It will happen.
It'll bring the number of mega voltage machines at the Mater to 3. The first one purchased in the 80s with proceeds from a series of NBN telethons. The new linear accelerator will allow an additional 500 courses of treatment a year for residents of the Hunter and northern New South Wales. It should help cut down waiting times considerably. Patients currently facing treatment delays of up to 6 weeks.
Well, the waiting times vary according to the clinical condition and the type of treatment people require, but at the moment they're edging up to a level that we don't believe is ideal, and the third linear accelerator will enable us to bring it back down to something that's more clinically appropriate.
Meanwhile, the minister's visit has brought relief at last for gridlocked ambulance officers at Maitland. Drivers called out on emergencies have found themselves increasingly hemmed in by traffic on the busy New England highway. Mr Phillips activated a traffic warning system, signs with flashing lights to warn highway motorists to give way to ambulances as they emerge from the Walters Street station. Ian Cameron, NBN News.
It's not the
The Penny Beach estate near Swansea is an ambitious plan. Since the collapse of Gordon Pacific, which proposed a large tourist-style complex, receiver James Mullen Developments has revised the original applications to accommodate 4,000 residential sites on the strip between the coast and Lake Macquarie. There's a major setback, with a local environment study recommending 355 hectares of the 650-hectare parcel be preserved.
I think the study recommended what most reasonable people thought it would, and that is that whilst there's some large parcels of the estate suitable for residential and tourist development, that the sensitive areas should be retained in their natural state.
Councillor Winning is one of many who oppose the plan. Had this study been available in 1988, he believes the then council would not have approved many of the developments, such as an extensive golf course on the coastal side, a marina, condominiums and a shopping centre on the lake, as well as advising much of the land be conserved, partly to protect 3 rare and endangered species. Consultants Gutteridge, Haskins and Davies say large strips along the lake and ocean should be designated for tourist and residential purposes. With at least 3 Land and Environment Court challenges pending, there's concern council may be on the back foot, defending a 4th if recommendations are adopted.
I think it'll destroy the natural state of, for example, Murray's Beach, so I would hope that we can negotiate with the owner some of these aspects of it and swap some less sensitive land for these sensitive areas.
Ridden by Simon Marshall, Hariba, part owned by former tennis great Frank Sedgman, won by 6 lengths, easing down at the line and was 0.1 of a second outside the track record for 1,200 metres at Flemington. It returned 190 and 130. Former Scone galloper Spanish Mix paid 320 and Scalacci was third, returning 170. To Sydney, where the feature was the Australia Day Cup over 2,400 metres. Another winner to the Ingham brothers. The fledgling returned $8 even and $2.50. Twiggy Touchwood second and Key Kanee third.
For more than 48 hours, the condition of country music star Reg Lindsay was listed by doctors as critical. He was rushed to Newcastle's John Hunter Hospital on Wednesday after being struck down by a cerebral hemorrhage in Tamworth. Ironically, the 62-year-old from the Curry area is in the middle of a national tour called Not Slowing Down. His wife Ros and daughters Diane and Sandra have maintained a bedside vigil. His other daughter Joanne arrives from England tonight. It's been a worrying few days for the family, but Reg is slowly improving.
He's very, very tired, yes. When he's awake he is in good spirits, but he's dozing all the time.
Mrs. Lindsay says she's been buoyed enormously by the hundreds of phone calls from fans around the country. At times they've jammed the hospital switchboard.
We knew we had a lot of fans out there, but it's just astronomical, the amount that are out there.
Mr. Lindsay's family will have a better idea of his condition later this evening. He's been undergoing tests all day, which should indicate the severity of the hemorrhage and how quickly he'll recover. The family knows there's a long road ahead, but there's no talk of Reg retiring.
Tell the kids the old man's through with playing rodeo. 'Cause if it's all right with you, I'm coming home. Well, there's silence on the line. She says you